Good day, everyone, and welcome to our online forum on rethinking curriculum design and implementation in the age of digital learning. I'm Octavia, and I'll be your moderator for this session. So today we'll examine how personalized learning, interdisciplinary design, technology integration, and global perspectives can and should shape Malaysia's curriculum while balancing equity, teacher capacity, assessment alignment, and ethical concerns. So to set the scene, Malaysia has been actively updating its national education agenda, including a new future education blueprint that highlights AI integration, educational equity, and accessibility. It's an ambitious and forward-looking direction, reflecting the country's determination to keep pace with global shifts in digital learning. But the real challenge lies beyond the policy documents, in how these aspirations translate into classroom realities. Are schools truly equipped with the infrastructure, training, and assessment systems needed to make these goals work in practice? Because as we've seen before, strong policy vision doesn't always guarantee coherent implementation. So while the intent is clear and commendable, the real test for Malaysia's education reform will be execution, ensuring consistency, capacity, and contextual fit across all levels of the system. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists here. We have four esteemed panelists. The first would be Dr. Jenny, a university lecturer from UITM Sabah. She brings extensive experience in blended learning and curriculum innovation, offering valuable insights from the higher education perspective. Welcome, Dr. Jenny.
Thank you, thank you.
Next, we have Professor TANUSRII. She's a lecturer at the Teacher Training Institute in IPG Penang. She's an expert in teacher education and instructional design with a strong focus on preparing educators for the 21st century classroom. Welcome, Professor TANUSRII.
Hi, thank you.
We're also delighted to have Ms. DELIA, head of the State Education Department of Sabah, who oversees the implementation of educational policies across diverse school contexts in the state. Welcome, Ms. DELIA.
Thank you.
And finally, Ms. LINDEY, Curriculum Division Officer from the Ministry of Education. Now, Ms. LINDEY here plays a key role in translating Malaysia's strategic direction into comprehensive policy frameworks and implementation plans. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's session will be a semi-formal discussion. So I'll begin with a few targeted questions before inviting some cross-panel exchanges. So to my panelists here, feel free to respond directly to one another as the conversation unfolds, yeah? All right, so let's get the ball rolling. Let's begin with Dr. Jenny. From the university perspective, what do you see as the main curriculum tensions that digital learning has created?
Thank you. Good day there, Ms. Octavia, and to all the other panels today. Now, Malaysian universities have embraced digital learning models like blended and flipped classrooms, which offer students flexibility and project-based tasks. Now, I've seen firsthand how this digital learning has reshaped our teaching landscape at the tertiary level. Now, this digital learning has brought significant transformation to curriculum design and delivery. But despite these pedagogical advances, we do face persistent structural tensions. Now, so our curricula still rely heavily on very fixed content sequences, which actually limit the adaptive learning and the interdisciplinary exploration. So this rigidity clashes with the dynamic nature of the digital platforms. So moreover, digital inequality remains a very serious concern, particularly in East Malaysia, where students struggle with poor connectivity and limited access to devices. This undermines the equity we aim for in higher education. Another one is assessment, which is actually the major tension. While we actually moved some exam online, the system still favors high stakes individual testing. Now, this misalignment with collaborative and inquiry based learning stifles the innovation and deeper engagement. So that's the real tension there.
Jenny, I agree with you. And I'd add that, sometimes that while universities often test ideas like new ideas successfully, these innovations don't always like make it into schools, because the necessary support aren't there, like the support systems and all. So integrating digital technology in, schools is complicated, like where each school faces its own, unique challenges. Um, we can also say that many teachers aren't fully ready, and assessments in schools, they don't often match the higher standards we see in universities. So professional development, like for teachers, needs to be flexible and also ongoing. But we also have to remember that teachers often face barriers beyond their control, like infrastructure, lack of resources, or limited support from their institutions. So these factors make it difficult for them, to apply new teaching approaches, even if they are actually well trained.
Exactly. Now, we must design pathways so higher education innovations would be able to inform the school curricula and not just to bypass them. Okay, very often universities pilot cutting-edge pedagogies like project-based learning, interdisciplinary modules, or digital portfolios. um, that's what they normally do. But these remain siloed at the tertiary level. For example, a university might run successful flipped classroom model in teacher education, but if school curricula still rely on rigid textbook-driven instruction, here the impact is lost. So that is also another problem. So here instead we need vertical alignment. For example, STEM education. So if universities integrate real-world problem solving and coding into their curriculum, schools should begin like scaffolding those skills early, as early as in the primary school. So perhaps through this can be done through inquiry-based science or robotics clubs. So similarly, if universities assess uh, via digital portfolios, schools should also introduce some reflective learning and formative assessment practices similar to something like that.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Jenny, you brought up assessment earlier, and that's such a crucial point. So, can you share a concrete example where digital learning activities, things like collaborative projects or creative tasks, how did they actually clash with our traditional marks-driven assessment systems? Because if students are learning in more open digital and interactive ways, yet we're still measuring them with rigid grading structures, aren't we sending mixed signals what we truly value in learning?
Okay, sure. I'll give you some examples now. A common clash occurs when students engage in collaborative digital projects like designing a community health campaign or creating a podcast on climate change, but they are still assessed through individuals, marks-driven exams. Now, these creative tasks, they actually foster teamwork, like critical thinking, on digital literacy, yet traditional assessment, they often ignore these skills. So, for instance, a group might produce an excellent multimedia presentation, but they only receive marks based on a written test about the topic. So, this disconnect actually discourages innovation and undervalues the authentic learning. So yes, they are sending mixed signals about what they true value in learning. So to resolve this, Assessment system must evolve to include rubrics for collaborations, creativity, and process, not just the content recall.
Can I
Okay.
also just add, like,
Yes.
at IPG Penang, we now train teachers in digital teaching methods, understanding AI and using data to guide learning. However, these national surveys and the digital competency framework, show that many teachers are still building their skills. So the large scale retraining program announced in 2025 is actually a good step forward, but its success will depend on the quality of the training and the ongoing support that the teachers will actually receive after it. Like in our teacher training programs, we noticed that short workshops on using digital tools often spark excitement, but fade very quickly without coaching or classroom application. So what works better is when teachers are given small classroom-based projects, like designing a digital lesson for a real group of students, followed by feedback and also mentoring. So this kind of practical, hands-on follow-up will actually build real confidence and habits that last.
I really agree with what you have said. The Ministry of Education has been extending professional development programs, and that's a good step forward, But as we all know, real challenge doesn't happen in one-day workshop, okay? It takes time, and it happens when teachers are given continuous support, space to reflect, and chances to try new ideas in their own classrooms, okay? And many teachers tell me the same thing. They come back from training feeling excited, but once they are back in school, reality hits. Full timetables, paperwork, and sometimes poor internet and limited devices. Without steady follow-up or school-level support, those great ideas fade before they can take root. So for me, the main tension isn't just about technology itself. It's about sustaining what we start. We can launch many initiatives, but unless teachers have time, coaching, and encouragement to keep practicing, real progress is hard to maintain. Okay, if we look at the data, it tells a similar story. Under the Digital Education Policy 2023, only about 2.2% of educators have reached the advanced level of digital competency. See, the digital competency scores still shows us a small but steady gap, with 3.34 for urban and 3.24 for rural students. And a UKM study in rural Sabah found that many students still miss online lessons because of poor connectivity and not enough devices. So these numbers highlight a deeper issue. The challenge isn't just between technology and teaching. It's between ambition and capacity. So we can design wonderful policies, but without consistency, guidance, and trust, teachers can't sustain innovation in their classroom. But the good news is that the ministry has started taking small but meaningful steps. We are piloting blended learning kits that work both online and offline. So building peer coaching networks through teacher training institutes and offering adaptation grants to schools can localize digital materials to fit their students' needs. So these are not flashy projects, but they make a difference. They give teachers support and ownership. So workshops may spark ideas, but consistent follow-through turns those ideas into lasting impact.
Yes.
And I think that the heart of it, our biggest challenge now, isn't starting new initiatives. It's sustaining them with fidelity and purpose. So when teachers are supported over time, their confidence grows, their classroom change, and students truly benefits. So because when teachers thrive, our students and our nation move forward.
Thank you, Miss Lindy. I'm sorry, I just want to add in, but my background, it's the festival season. So I'd like to add, that teacher training should actually focus less on learning how to use specific tools, and more on how to make good teaching decisions. So knowing when to use the technology, how to keep lessons meaningful, and how to assess important 21st century skills effectively. So here, like in IPG, we emphasize reflective practice, asking our trainee teachers to think critically about why they're using a digital platform or AI tool. For example, when they use tools like Canva or Padlet, we guide them, then to focus on how those tools will actually enhance the students' collaboration or creativity, not just about, oh, how does this platform work? How am I going to use it? Do I know how to use it? No, it's about how it enhances the collaboration or creativity. So that shift from tool use to purposeful pedagogy is where transformation really happens. Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
yes.
Okay. So it's my turn to explain a little bit from the state perspective. Teacher workload in Sabah is always a hot topic. Every new innovation from e-learning platforms to AI lesson tools sounds exciting at first, but it often comes with extra tasks, preparing digital content, moderating online classes, and marking e-portfolios. In schools from Kudat to Sampurna, teachers are multitasking heroes, where they are not only, I mean, they do not only teach, but they file reports, handle co-curriculars, and sometimes even, fixing Wi-Fi's. If professional development keeps adding work instead of simplifying it, our senior teachers might just say, back to chalk and board, please. Or maybe back and chalk to talk, right? So we must rethink how innovation is rolled out, ensuring that technology serves teachers, not the other way around.
Okay, so are we at risk of a situation where we publicly celebrate every new tech rollout, but quietly place an even heavier burden on teachers behind the scenes? Because because if you look at the case, then we're not really transforming education, right? We're just shifting the pressure points. So I think that that kind of imbalance is unsustainable. Real innovation isn't about adding more tools, it's about redesigning systems so teachers can actually teach better, not just work harder. Don't you think?
Yes, and that's why PD, professional development, must be linked to these policy changes that acknowledge planning and marking time in teachers' schedules. So at the teacher training level here, what we do is we encourage our trainees to work in micro teams, where they can co-plan lessons and peer review each other's teaching videos. So if schools could mirror that, by giving teachers protected time each week for collaborative planning, it would actually make a huge difference. So it's about creating the same reflective, supportive culture we cultivate in our IPG classroom.
Yeah, and in fact, we recently piloted the digital classroom transformation project in Sabah, integrating tools like Google Workspace, and AR learning applications. The initial excitement was infectious as students loved the interactivity and teachers were eager to explore new possibilities. However, as weeks went by, practical challenges emerged, like inconsistent internet coverage, shared or outdated devices, and limited technical support. It's difficult to sustain the momentum. In some interior schools, the technology now sits unused, not due to disinterest, but because teachers lack the time, confidence, and infrastructure to use it effectively. As reported in Malay Mail last year, this experience highlights a crucial issue where innovation must be matched with equitable access and continuous professional development. Otherwise, digitalizing or digitalization risks widening the gap between urban and rural education. Moving forward, our focus is to ensure that every teacher in Sabah, regardless of location, receives the right support and resources to make technology a true enabler of quality learning.
Miss Delia, I would like to add a little bit on with what you have mentioned a little bit a while there. Now, that actually aligns with what we piloted here at the universities, like low bandwidth digital activities, for example, asynchronous forums, digital storytelling, and mobile-based local inquiry projects. They actually offer very high pedagogical values. Now they promote critical thinking, creativity, and also contextual learning without actually requiring very advanced infrastructure. Now, these approaches are especially effective in underserved regions, supporting the inclusive and student-centered education, which align with constructivist and experiential learning principles.
Exactly, Dr. Jenny. Low-tech digital literacies, community partnerships, and place-based projects often make the biggest difference, especially in remote schools. Simple tools like offline applications, radio lessons, and locally relevant digital storytelling empower teachers and students alike, proving that innovation doesn't always require high-end technology to create meaningful learning impact.
Okay, all right, Miss Delia, I'd like to push this a little further. So, do state education departments really have the flexibility to adapt national curriculum goals to local realities? Or are you mostly implementing what's dictated from the center? Because sometimes it feels like there's a gap between what's designed in Putrajaya and what actually works in places like Sabah. So, how much room do you actually have to innovate? Or are central standards still calling most of the shots?
Hmm, There is some flexibility, but strong clarity and resource support from the ministry make all the difference. When local adaptation is both permitted and well resourced, teachers in Sabah show remarkable creativity, designing lessons that blend national goals with community realities, ultimately making innovation more meaningful and sustainable across diverse school contexts.
Well, from the ministry's perspective, the Secondary School Curriculum Framework 2025 marks an important step forward for our schools. It's more than just a curriculum update. It's a shift in how we prepare our students to live and learn in a changing world. Okay, the framework builds in key elements like digital literacy, AI ethics, and global citizenship. So our students not only gain knowledge, but also learn how to think responsibly and act with integrity in a digital society. So we want to shape young Malaysians who can thrive globally while staying rooted in our local culture and values. Okay, the direction aligns closely with UNESCO's Education 2030 agenda, especially SDG 4, which calls for quality and inclusive education for all. So, but as we know, having a strong policy is one thing, making it work at the school level is another. Across Malaysia, we've seen that the translation of policy into classroom practice can be uneven. So some schools innovate quickly, while others struggle due to limited connectivity resources of teacher training. That's where the ministry is focusing its efforts now, ensuring consistency and support. We are developing clearer teaching guides, leadership coaching for school heads, and capacity building programs to help schools apply the new curriculum effectively. We are also encouraging flexibility. allowing states to adapt national goals to local realities so that each region can bring its strength into the framework. Okay, but ultimately our aim is simple. So to make sure every learner, whether in Kuala Lumpur, Kota Kinabalu, or the interior of Sabah and Sarawak, has equal access to this digital and values-driven transformation. Because a strong curriculum isn't just about what we teach, but how well we use that every student, everywhere we can, every student can learn meaningfully and with purpose.
Miss Lindy, thank you. That was really good. Policy coherence is important. It's very crucial, but can the MOE commit to long-term budgets, not just buying technology, but also maintaining it, supporting ongoing professional development and coaching, and reforming assessments? From what I've observed in our PG partnerships with schools, many promising digital initiatives lose momentum. Once the initial funding dries up, computers go unrepaired, software subscriptions lapse, and teachers lose access to coaching support. So sustainability must be planned from the start.
The ministry is moving in that direction. We are shifting away from one-off tech purchases toward long-term investment in people and systems. Under the budget 2026, the Education Ministry receives 66.2 billion ringgit, the largest allocation among all ministries. Part of that goes into maintaining school ICT facilities, improving connectivity through JENDELA, and supporting the DELIA platform, which teachers are already using to share lessons and digital resources. So at the same time, we are putting more emphasis on sustained professional growth through the tech-led learning circles for formative assessment projects with Education International. Teachers are learning through coaching and peer mentoring, not just one-off workshops. And it's a shift toward continuous learning and real classroom impact. And in terms of assessment reform, we are building on classroom assessments where teachers use peer and self-assessment and give formative feedback. Sorry. We are seeing promising examples in the northern states and in Sabah, where teachers are integrating feedback into science and language lessons. So yes, our commitment goes beyond buying equipment. It's about maintaining, supporting, and sustaining what's already built, so that every ringgit spent truly strengthens teaching, assessment, and learning for all students.
All right. Yeah, Miss Lindy, yeah, a very insightful explanation there. So, okay, so let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture here, right? So the public, they often see these national blueprints full of ambitious goals and timelines, and they naturally expect immediate visible change. But in reality, education reform doesn't move overnight, correct? It's layered, complex, and sometimes it's messy. So Miss Lindy, how does the ministry manage those public expectations? How do you communicate that progress in education often happens in phases? That is not just about quick wins, but about building systems that last. And perhaps even more importantly, how does the ministry measure that phased success? Are there clear indicators, transparent reporting mechanisms, or feedback loops that show what's working and what's not before we actually move to the next stage? Because without that clarity, we risk creating beautiful plans on paper, but losing public trust when the change doesn't feel real on the ground.
Those are great questions of Ms. Octavia. And yes, managing expectation is always a challenge. Education reform takes time. So we are approaching in its phases, guided by three main indicators: assess, teacher competency and learning outcomes. For access, we are tracking progress through JENDELA and DELIA, monitoring how many students are connected and how actively digital platforms are used, especially in Sabah and Sarawak. So for teachers, teacher competency, we are using the digital competency score. Right now, only about 2.2% of educators are at the advanced level. So our So our short-term focus is on steady growth through coaching and peer learning circles. And for learning outcomes, we are strengthening classroom assessment so schools can measure deeper skills like collaborative and creativity, not just exams. We'll also release transparent progress reports for each phase so the public can see real data, not just announcements, but real data. And short-term wins may be small, but they show steady progress toward a more connected, equitable, and future-ready education system.
Okay, all right, understood. A very compact explanation there. So let's sharpen the debate a little, okay? Several critical risks keep coming up in our conversation, and I think it's time we look at them head on, yeah? Like, for example, first, the risk of over-relying on technology, which could lead to de-skilled pedagogy. And second, the rural-urban divide, which might deepen if access remains unequal. And I think third would be the growing teacher workload and burnout. And fourth, ethical and data privacy concerns. And finally, the issue of assessment lag, where evaluation system can't keep pace with innovation. So here's what I'd like to do. I'll ask each of you to pick one of these risks and maybe share a concrete mitigation, something practical that could really make a difference on the ground. So let's see. Okay, let's make this round focused and forward-looking. Okay, how can we turn these challenges into opportunities for smarter, fairer implementation? So let's start with Dr. Jenny.
Oh, okay. I would like to talk about the assessment lag,
Okay, all right.
where evaluation systems trail behind the pedagogical innovation. This is real. This problem is real. Nonetheless, if we want to into opportunities, it can be transformed into an opportunity, okay, for smarter and fairer implementation, as you mentioned. This can be done by shifting to dynamic assessments, like probably digital portfolios and reflective journals, where we can better capture students' growth. Now, embedding these assessments within learning activities, like collaborative projects with peer and self-evaluation, this ensures relevance and authenticity. Technology also enables real-time formative feedback through quizzes, analytics, which can help educators to adjust instructions. Advocating for policy flexibilities allows institutions to recognize diverse assessments formats, including micro-credentials and competency-based badges. Now, these approaches align assessment with modern learning goals, which can promote equity, creativity, and deeper engagement across diverse student contexts. So that's what I'm going to say.
All right.
All right, so can I go next?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, all right. So I'll talk about the risk of teacher workload. Okay, so the mitigation here is to set aside protected time each week for teachers to, plan lessons together, build professional learning communities, where tech-savvy teachers can mentor the others and design a professional development that focuses on teaching methods and pedagogy, not just on using the tools. So here, for instance, we've piloted small PLCs where digital trained lecturers and trainee teachers, they co-design lessons. So it's not about, adding more work, but making collaboration and creativity. So the same model, if we adopted it in schools, can actually reduce isolation and help teachers support, one another in managing workload while improving this practice. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
As my chosen
Julia?
risk, I would like to highlight the rural-urban divide in education, which remains a persistent challenge across many regions. Addressing this risk requires solutions that are realistic and rooted in community strengths. We are prioritizing low bandwidth digital tools such as SMS-based learning, unstructured supplementary service data, USSD systems. Yes, those #123 hash codes still work wonders. I am not sure whether you still remember. And offline educational applications that can function without a stable internet. To ensure access, schools are introducing rotating device schemes where tablets and laptops are shared among students through scheduled use, supported by clear maintenance budgets to keep equipment functional over time. Beyond technology, school community partnerships are being strengthened, encouraging local councils, NGOs, and parents to co-develop and share devices, as well as create locally relevant digital content in both Bahasa Malaysia and local dialects. These collaborative ground-up work strategies make technology more inclusive and culturally grounded, ensuring that innovation reaches every school, from city blocks to kampung hills, sustainably and equitably. With consistent coordination, teacher training, and community buy-in, such initiatives can build long-term digital resilience, empowering educators and students to thrive despite infrastructure challenges.
Okay. As as for the Ministry of Education, we are developing a national EdTech procurement and data governance framework to ensure innovation in our schools remain responsible, ethical, and secure. So this framework aligns with Personal Data Protection Act 2010 and the National AI Governance and Ethics Framework, requiring all vendors to show data protection, transparency, and ethical AI compliance before adoption. We are also we are also moving forward toward open and interoperable platforms like the Lima developed with Google, Microsoft, and Apple, so schools can access digital tools that are affordable, adaptable, and integrated. To avoid vendor lock-in, we are prioritizing low-cost, flexible solutions that can be maintained locally and linked to national systems. And through the Digital Education Policy 2023, we are enhancing infrastructure and teacher capacity, especially in rural and underserved areas. So our goal is clear: to build a trusted, future-ready EdTech ecosystem that empowers teachers, protects students' data, and ensures every learner benefits from technology that is safe, inclusive, and sustainable.
All right, so you've always really good points about the structural changes needed. And I just want to add two quick pieces of evidence to that. First, in 2024, the Ministry of Education launched new curriculum interventions to boost literacy and numeracy. So this came after feedback that some of the earlier material were just a little too difficult for students. So it actually shows that the ministry can respond to feedback, and that's a positive sign of flexibility and listening. Second, there's been some recent research on using generative AI for curriculum work. Now, the findings are quite interesting, I believe, because they show strong potential, but also raise red flags about factual accuracy and the need for solid grounding and verification. So together, these signals remind us that while innovation is exciting, careful rollout and strong oversight are absolutely essential. We need to move forward, but do it wisely.
Okay, I would have to agree, Miss Octavia. But now, Dr. Jenny, I do have a question about generative AI curricula. At what point do we permit teachers to use AI generated materials without losing subject mastery? So here in our IPG courses, we've already been experimenting with this question, where we encourage trainee teachers to use AI tools for drafting lesson ideas, but they must be they must justify, right, the content themselves. So it's a balance using AI to inspire creativity, while still ensuring that the teacher remains the subject expert and critical thinker in the process. So again, at what point do we permit teachers to use AI generated materials without losing subject mastery?
That's a very, very good questions. Well, actually, teachers can use AI-generated materials without losing any subject mastery by actually treating AI as supportive tool rather than as substitute expertise. So I think what you're doing, like asking them to draft ideas using AI, but then they still have to recheck. Yes, it's true, because UNESCO emphasizes that educators must critically evaluate the AI outputs and integrate them ethically and maintain the pedagogical control of the class. So here, professional development is key. Teachers needs training to understand when and how to use the AI effectively. Um, the International Society for Technology in Education, or ISTE, they also advocates for empowering educators to curate and adapt AI tools to enhance learning while preserving the instructional integrity. So, by embedding the AI into curriculum design responsibly, teachers can save time, personalize learning, and focus on deeper engagement to ensure that subject mastery remains central to teaching.
Okay, so each of you has shared really practical ideas on how we can manage these challenges. And I think it's worth tying them back to the national picture here. So recent news shows that the Ministry of Education is planning a major teacher retraining initiative this year, 2025. And the Future Education Blueprint also signals a strong long-term commitment to reform. So these are genuinely positive signs. They show intent, investment, and momentum. But as always, the real success will depend on coherence. How well are all these efforts connect? How well all these efforts connect and support each other in practice? Because at the end of the day, even the best plans only work when the pieces move together.
The policy momentum is strong, but our focus now is on equity and not just access. We are moving beyond counting devices to measuring how digital learning improves outcomes, especially across regions and income groups. Under the Digital Education Policy 2023, the school reports 2025 school report how tools like DELIA are actually used, not just distributed. Okay, our monitoring looks at equity indicators, the learning gap between urban and rural schools and between B40 and non-B40 families. Right now, the digital competencies score stands at 3.34 for urban learners and 3.24 for rural learners, showing where support is still needed. So success isn't about how much technology we roll out. It's about how much we close the learning gap and make sure every child from Kuala Lumpur to the interior part of Sabah like Kudat benefits equally from digital learning.
From our local perspective, there is a strong need for trainers who can travel, observe, and follow up with teachers directly in their schools. While online professional development is helpful, it often doesn't fully address the needs of educators in remote or resource limited areas, where connectivity is unstable and digital confidence varies. Many teachers benefit most from hands-on mentoring, where they can see tools demonstrated in their own classrooms and receive step-by-step guidance. This face-to-face support builds trust, confidence, and motivation, qualities that online training alone cannot nurture. Nothing beats a hands-on demo in a real classroom where questions pop up, laughter breaks the ice, and learning feels alive. Having trainers on site also allows for real-time problem solving and contextual adjustments that suit each school's environment.
All right. So, thank you. This has been a very engaging discussion. You know, Malaysia really does have strong momentum towards a digitally enabled future. But to make that vision work, we need to make sure everyone has fair access to technology, that teachers have continuous sustainable support, and that assessments, data ethics, and local context all move in the same direction. And at the end of the day, technology is a catalyst, not a cure. It should enhance good teaching, not replace it, because no matter how advanced our tools become, teachers will always be the heart of meaningful learning and curriculum design. And here's something worth remembering, ladies and gentlemen. Pilot, measure, and adapt. Take it step by step, learn from what works, and don't rush to scale tools that aren't ready for our classrooms yet. So as we move forward with AI and data-driven systems, let's set up the right guardrails. We want technology to serve people, not the other way around. So let's keep human judgment, empathy, and care at the center of education. So a big thank you to Dr. Jenny, Professor Tanusrii, Miss Delia, and Miss Lindy for sharing such thoughtful insights today. And of course, thank you to everyone joining us online. So let's keep this dialogue alive, and we'll see you again soon for another inspiring and meaningful discussion online. Good night, everyone.